I'm moving.
The magic of the internet, everyone. Give you guys
Appears to be fine though.
So yes, Kaylin is going to be watching for questions. So if you've never joined me on a webinar before, I will tell you my presentation style, just like in person, is very casual. So shoot a comment anytime. I just actually shared a little video on LinkedIn saying, please ask questions. It makes the presentation so much better because it gears towards what you guys want to hear about. So ask me anything. Kaylin's going to interrupt me during the presentation because she'll be watching. And if anyone is tuning in on Facebook too, you can totally ask questions there. Kaylin will have her eyes on both-ish.
All of the things.
Cool. All right, a couple more in there too. I'm going to start sharing my screen.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Let's just make sure this works. Awesome. You guys, you see the right things, Kaylin?
Yeah, you're good.
Nice. Okay, I'm gonna get started. You know, thank you guys for coming today, and thank you, as always, for kind of tuning in and supporting what we're doing. I feel like a lot of you I've been chatting with on LinkedIn, which is great. I love LinkedIn for kind of connecting with new faces, especially in the tourism space. So many of you are doing so many great LinkedIn campaigns right now, but you're also doing so many great things in your communities. So those buy local, support local, I'm thrilled to be seeing some of that. Someone asked me the other day that somebody actually happened to be a family member as we kind of sat around enjoying each other's company. Why do you as a marketing agency care so much about the tourism space? And I mean, I think the obvious answer is, well, we do work in the tourism space, so we obviously want it to thrive and do well as we come out of a super strange summer season for many of you. But also, I'm a mom, I have 2 boys, and my family loves to get outdoors. We just came back, and actually Jillian from Coyote Lodge is on the line from an awesome road trip adventure. This summer has really challenged us as a family to explore more locally, which is awesome. And I think there's a tremendous opportunity for you guys to be doing that as well. So I've teased this to a few of you. I've been working with a few of you on these initiatives already, and so has my team. I want to talk a little bit about our campaign kits today. I want to go through one that we've worked on with Northern BC Tourism and that they've deployed to their 13 regional partners. And I want to start a little bit on the value of tourism. So if you joined us a few weeks back, I feel like maybe a month or 2 ago now, which is crazy, you'd have heard Peter and I talk about doubling down on your hometown and what that means from a value of tourism perspective. So we're going to start there today, and then we're going to work into these campaign kits. Like I said, and if you've just joined us, please ask me any questions during this. I want to gear this towards you guys. I want to hear about some of those local advocacy campaigns that you're working on. Let's use this time together to make your initiatives even better. So yeah, let's get into it. So the value of tourism. I'm sure many of you have heard about this, super trendy right now throughout Canada, I would say especially throughout Western Canada, but it's really that opportunity to show your locals why tourism is important to them. I'm going to use tourism Kamloops a lot as an example throughout today. They've been a real bright light as a client for us in terms of executing value of tourism really successfully in their community. So if you think about them, 5 years ago when we started engaging with them, their community really didn't think of themselves as a tourism destination. They thought of themselves as a stop along a highway. And when we got in there and started doing focus groups and started talking to them about things, we really ended up realizing that there's a real opportunity here to start changing the channel on what tourism means to the community. So it was about education in terms of, hey, what is a visitor economy? Why is it important? Who's involved in it? And how can you contribute to it? I think it's always important to remember with value of tourism, and I'm going to be broken record about this today, is education first. I mean, if someone's telling you something, but there's no reason why behind it, it's often harder to believe it's important. So with value of tourism for us, the first step is always education. So really, you know, you're all kind of in this space or adjacent to it, you know that there's never been a more important time for your locals to understand the importance of tourism. And that's really what it's all about. Peter, who's my husband, but also my business partner, came up with this great saying at the BC Tourism Industry Conference earlier this year in March, which was double down on your hometown. And really there has never been a more important opportunity for you to do that. Your locals are going to be what help your tourism survive, and then those regional folks that are coming to visit are going to be the ones that make it thrive. So I have one question here for you guys. How have you been showcasing the value of tourism in your community? Fill in the comments, whether you're on Facebook or whether you're joining us right on the Zoom webinar. And Kaylin will interrupt after this next slide and let me know what you guys have been working on. So, like I said, if locals understand that value of the visitor economy, they can support you in directly what you need. In some places, this is destination development. In some places, this is, maybe it's your MRDT, maybe you're looking to get an increase, maybe you're looking to drive more memberships into your DMO. Maybe as an ECDEV officer, you're just looking to increase awareness with your municipality to potentially go down the road of a DMO in the future, or potentially just to get your first, piggy bank full of tourism spend. Also, value of tourism, really important for that referrals. If you think about the strongest, easiest, quick convertibility are going to be those friends and families of your locals that live there. So how can you turn them into advocates and actually make it exciting for them to say, hey, come visit me, there's tons to do in my city. Also, you know, in times like these, like I said, that local tourism-based business needs our support as a local to make this kind of thrive into the future. So local advocacy is getting your locals excited about tourism. Kaylin, is there anyone in the chat that's shared things that they've been doing locally?
I'm on mute. Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, well, keep thinking. I'd love to know, guys. I know even within our community, so we're in Bowness in Calgary, if anyone knows where that is, there's been some great local initiatives from our business improvement area. So just some support locals. Jackie, who is the awesome ED there, she's actually got a farmer's market in 1 day a week. So really encouraging kind of congregation and moving towards that local marketplace. I know that you're going to hear about Northern BC Tourism a lot. They've been working on empowering their regional partners to really tell that strong story. So a lot you can be doing. Okay, so what is value of tourism? What does it end up looking like? I want to walk you guys through a little bit. This is a fun slide for you to look at. We last updated these numbers in March, and the program has still been going. So these numbers are growing for Tourism Kamloops. But this program is really fun. So in 2018 is when the vision for Love in the Loops really started. And so value of tourism, not really the sexiest thing to present to your locals, but Love in the Loops for Kamloops became kind of the catchphrase and folded in all of the value of tourism components. So 2018, we started with some great community polling, and we found out that actually a lot of people supported tourism, and a lot of people thought it was a great place to start a tourism-based business. They thought it was a great place to bring friends and family. But two things, they didn't know how to support it, and they had no idea what Tourism Kamloops was supposed to be doing. So there was our opportunity to educate. We knew that, okay, Tourism Kamloops is doing some really great things. So how can we amplify that and tell the story of Tourism Kamloops to the community? And two, how do we make sure that locals know how to support tourism? Love in the Loops, after this kind of round of research, roundtables, understanding who our advocates were, grew into really a local marketing campaign. So it was the first time in recent history that Kamloops actually used marketing dollars and invested it into the local market. They did this through 2019, and went to local radio stations, went to the local TV station, did local buys, really doubled down on media relations. Can we get on an afternoon segment and talk about what Tourism Kamloops is doing? So this education process started. They were able to partner with some really great events to get the word out, leverage some marketing opportunities, and then kind of couple in government relations. So you'll see this 25 plus government meetings on this infographic here. And so they started telling the story to community leaders. Hey, tourism's important. We're Tourism Kamloops. This is what we're doing. And this is what we need from you in terms of moving the dial on understanding how important the visitor economy is. So there's a lot of that traditional communications, a lot of the things that maybe you'll fold into an annual report and your board will see, and maybe some other folks. But it really became that, how can we shift our LinkedIn and Twitter to be more about the locals? How can we leverage local media? And what are the things we can do in our community to really empower locals? So check the box, that education piece was done. We did another round of polling. People showed through the numbers that yes, they still support tourism. Yes, they're starting to understand what the visitor economy is. And yes, now they understand the role that Tourism Kamloops plays in the community. Q, community empowerment. So really this kind of advocacy portion of your Value of Tourism campaign. Tourism Kamloops did something really cool, which was get these big buses, so big tour buses that they partnered with Rocky Mountain Huron, and did a monthly tour of the community. So about 30 to 40 people got to hop on this bus every month and take a peek at these destinations that as a local, you may drive by but never experience, or that you may never even know exist in your hometown. I love this quote on the right from Bryce. Bryce is actually works for Stingray Radio in the community, but it proved to him that Kamloops was not an overnight stay. This is someone who lived in town, but he now understands that it's a thriving community, that there's so much to do there, and that they're so lucky to live there. I was chatting with Bryce. He was actually featured on one of the podcast episodes. He has traveled across BC in many different capacities in terms of his career. And he said to me, in the first 6 months that he was in Kamloops and got to be part of this program, he had more people visit him from his hometown, which was Vancouver, than he ever had in any of the other destinations that he had lived across British Columbia. So just that testament of, we were able to empower Bryce by having him on these bus tours, and he felt empowered then to say, hey, friends and family, come out and visit me. There's really cool things to do here. So, one story, direct correlation between, hey, an awesome program, encouraging your locals, and then, in this case, Bryce actually taking action. So thanks, Bryce. The other neat things that the bus tour turned into was just great opportunities to understand who your partners are. If you're a DMO and or an ACTAV officer on the line, one of the most important things to start understanding early in your local advocacy campaigns are who are those partners you can continually count on. The ones you can count on to give a great media tour, the ones you can count on to be kind of the champion in the next advertising spot. But you really get to know your community and do some intel by who steps up to participate and empower those locals. The other pieces of this was, of course, a big social media campaign. The really interesting part, and we can share this with you guys after, is they worked with the local Stingray Radio to produce a radio segment that airs on Saturday mornings, but also turn that into a podcast for people to download. So every Saturday morning, they talk to somebody new in the community that sometimes are very obvious ties to tourism, but other times are not. And I think that's the story that your Value of Tourism campaign really needs to highlight. So one of your first things that I'll challenge you guys on if you're currently working towards a value of tourism plan is think outside the box. Who are those folks that you know are involved in tourism, but probably aren't that obvious? So I think about the folks that supply linens to your large event spaces, or the famous Tourism Richmond example, the blueberry farmer, right? Who thinks about the farmer unless you're doing a big ag tourism play? You don't. You go to the restaurant, you enjoy your blueberry pie, but that chain reaction of the farmer going to the farmer's market and the amazing chef from the restaurant buying fresh and buying local and serving that up to someone visiting. Think about those stories. Many of you are marketers on the phone, so tugging at those heartstrings, right? Those are great stories that your millennial traveler, your Gen Z traveler really gravitate to. They love that local spin. And you know what, as someone who's a traveler with my family, I love to be able to tell those stories. And in this time especially, knowing that you're visiting somewhere that encompasses and is helping so many people is really fascinating. That's Tourism Kamloops. What I'll say that's a little bit different from our presentation a couple months back is that we were able to see such an amazing pivot. So the Love in the Loops campaign obviously couldn't continue in its capacity and in its same framework because of COVID, but because they had built such a strong support system through the last, I'm going to say 2 years through their value of tourism initiatives, they pivoted to something called YK Strong, so Kamloops Strong. The initiative brought together a bunch of different business partners. So you ECDEV officers on the line will like this. People like the chambers, the city, I know Community Futures was part of it, BDO in the community. They sat together and created a website, a social media presence, and support for all of these local businesses, many of which were businesses in the tourism space. Tourism Kamloops had already built these channels out, so the pivot was easy, and now the focus becomes local. They were able to launch at the beginning of July a passport that's online, so that Love in the Loops bus tour is now a mobile passport. So you simply go to the website on your phone, sign up for an account, and I was actually lucky enough to test this out on my recent trip to BC. We went to the BC Wildlife Park. I don't know if Julie's on the line, but hey, Julie. And went to the front and said, hey, we'd like to come in, experience the park, and hey, I have the Love in the Loops passport. So the gal at the front scanned my passport, and I got a stamp on my virtual passport, and also an awesome deal. It was like 2 for 1 for us to get in as a family. And so the passport, if I get enough stamps at all of these local places, I can submit online just by a click of a button for a prize. I think this month you only have to have 5 stamps, so 5 different places. But a really easy way to encourage locals, a really nice gamification. And 2, if you're kind of new getting out into the community, really understanding who those partners are. If you're a more sophisticated DMO too, this becomes a potential revenue generator, right? So being able to potentially go to those destinations and say, hey, you can participate, you'll get X amount of advertising time as a part of this program, and that piece. So something to think about, an easy way to kind of empower locals. And if you're a mom like me, you're looking for the best meal, the best place. And it definitely allowed me to have an idea while I was out there of what we're going to do for a day trip for the day. I'm going to pause. Kaylin, any questions?
Not yet.
Awesome. You guys are a quiet bunch today. Maybe I should make a quiz at the end of this. So just to summarize, I know, and you guys know, that your typical focus has really been that external community, right? You are really great at attracting people from outside, inside. So what is value of tourism? It's that shift to focusing internally. And sometimes that can feel really daunting, right? Where do I begin? I haven't done this outreach in the community. The community hasn't really been my target market. So as a DMO, this can be a little bit challenging and a little bit of a change of a mindset. For you ECDev officers, this is great fodder for you as you're either trying to build that tourism strategy or tourism program. Your municipality should love the fact that you're looking local first, right? You're encouraging your locals to understand why tourism is important, but you're also building up enough capacity for those tourism-based businesses to potentially lead to some destination development. But allowing those destinations to refine themselves and tune up based on local opinions, rather than bringing the outside in and that first impression being a little bit less than polished. So important to think about that. Value of tourism is about thinking local. So I've talked a bit about this, but breaking it down and really breaking down what we did with tourism Kamloops. Your first step is about research and conversation. So if this is the first time you've ever thought about value of tourism, if this is the first time you are reflecting on how do I tell this tourism story to my community, I want you to start with some research. Polling is always so illuminating. In those communities that we've done some polling for in the past, and we've done polling throughout Canada, it's so interesting to me at first when you talk to a DMO or an ECDev officer and they say, ooh, I don't know how this is going to go, or ooh, I really think it's going to go this way. It totally proves to me that the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I think I'm always surprised by numbers, but what I'm not surprised about is the continued support. And I'm going to almost even call it a gut feeling that tourism is so valued and so important in a community. So start there. How do you start with research? Well, polling, if you can't kind of fit the bill for that, and there's some really affordable polling options now, think about online surveying and using the media to help you push that survey out. I know some of the Northern BC communities that took advantage of the kit actually did leverage local media, and it turned out really good. I think some communities ended up getting north of 500 responses, so a really good kind of litmus test for your community. And another really easy piece in the research side that we don't often think about is just the power of a roundtable. And pick on some of you ECDev officers on the line. You're good at this, right? Bringing together those leaders, sitting around a table, having a conversation, or potentially sitting around the Zoom meeting and having a conversation. Group people together that you think are somewhat like-minded in the opinions. What you don't want is in these roundtables when you're trying to get research is there to be this really polarizing conversation and you have two personalities kind of take over. Either try to have them one-on-one or try to group those ones that you think are going to be like-minded over here and over there and let conversations unfold that way. You'll get some really interesting results. Those conversations can also help you really determine what you want to poll about and what you want to understand. In light of COVID-19 and opening things up, we worked on a poll with Northern BC Tourism last month that allowed us to take a deeper look into the value of tourism coupled with who are you comfortable with coming to your city. And what was interesting is there were some very different opinions across the map. It's a big region, but there were some regions in particular that said, hey, I'm cool with the region visiting me. Anyone from my big region, which can be up to a 7-hour drive. But as we got a little bit more granular, we understood where there were potentially some anxieties. So important as you're getting ready to amp up marketing. This helped Northern BC Tourism, but also the smaller kind of community DMOs understand that, hey, my locals are probably okay with me marketing here and doing a big push, but I know that if I start marketing over here, that I'm going to raise some eyebrows and potentially lose some support for what I'm doing. You always need your local support. They're the ones that are going to ring the bell if they see something they don't like, and they're the ones that are going to be most affected by whatever could happen. So start with that. We're always here to help kind of talk through questions and things too. So if you're thinking about polling, contact us. I'm always happy to chat through that. I love that piece. That's the geeky Christina and me. Step 2 in your campaign, like I said before, education, education, education. Your poll is going to tell you what you need to educate about. What was interesting with this Northern BC tour poll that I was telling you guys about is one of the questions that I had Brad from our team sneak in there was around safety protocol. So do you feel like your local businesses in your community have taken the right safety measures to protect you, protect visitors? And why I wanted to understand this question was I thought, okay, if they're really unsure about visitors, and we have this question here, and they're also really unsure about safety protocols, then potentially the education is around this piece and how we're staying safe. We also had some other questions in there to gauge what needed to be part of the education campaign. But in this case, it showed, I think it was over 75% of people felt really comfortable about where things were at in the community. So this gave me, as the public relations and marketing consultant on the file, some reassurance that, okay, they've covered this. The community understands this. So from an education perspective, I can move on to a really strong value of tourism campaign. I can start talking about how Jonathan, who lives next door, is a fisherman, but also he cuts his teeth on being able to do tours during the summer, and explaining that and pulling at the heartstrings and allowing people to understand that it's not just tourism, it's your neighbor's livelihood. So those kind of questions really help you set the pace for education. We're going to show sample kits in a minute, but that education campaign, again, lays the ground for your step 3, which is your advocacy. Your advocacy is your call to action. So you're taking notes, write that down. Once you've done your research, once you've educated, now you got to ask people to do something. I've worked in a lot of political campaigns in the past. So Value of Tourism was really a brainchild for Peter and I based on our work on political campaigns. When you start a political campaign, the first thing you do is some research and some polling, you have some conversations, you then educate people as to you and to what you're doing and to why you want to be in the community and represent a certain party and go blah, blah, blah. And then the third step is you gotta ask, will you volunteer for me? Can you give me some money? Can you go and vote for me? Can you be on my newsletter list? Right, that call to action is so important. And sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we send the annual report, we send the numbers, we get an article published in the local paper and we go, okay, that's enough. But now you gotta ask them to do something. Again, I feel like some of you ECDev officers on the line, I know you've been going through the process of trying to start your own tourism organizations and branch that off from the Economic Development Office itself. So you're getting good at this, asking community for letters and support. DMOs, you've never had to ask your community for anything before. You've had to ask your partners for sure. So those that are engaged in your business as members or as stakeholders, but you don't really ask your locals. So what are things you would ask your locals? If you're currently doing anything Value of Tourism, throw it in the comments below. Tell us what you've been asking your locals to do, but these are easy things. So invite your family, leave a review for a locally based business, tell the tourism story, obviously visit these businesses, support local, shop local, and explore your backyard. Another interesting result we saw in the Northern BC stuff was around, are you planning to spend more time this summer exploring your own backyard? And over 60% of people said no, they weren't. And I think that is such a critical question for you to be asking. I think about my own family. We usually try to take an international trip in the summer while the boys aren't in school. And this year, obviously, that was off the table. So for us, it was, and it still is, about exploring our own backyard. We've done a couple mountain trips. We've done our BC trip. We're going to head back out to Kananaskis at the end of the summer. But so for us, we could check that box. Yes, we are planning to do more exploring. If you don't have that value of tourism and you haven't done that education piece, people don't understand that, no, it's not just a summer to sit at home, but it's a summer to get out and support. And if I'm being honest, it's going to be that for the next few seasons, right? So if you're fortunate to have a destination that has some offerings in all 4 seasons, start that education around why that's important and why the community needs to support. So those are your stages. What I'm going to tell you guys now, and again, this should look familiar, but if you're building a value of tourism campaign, if any of things that I'm saying is resonating with you, going, aha, we need to do this, I want you to take this slide, and Kaylin's going to be sending out this presentation and these slides afterwards, so you'll see them, but this should be your Bible slide. So you're building your strategy should have these 6 things. 1, make no assumptions. This is your research piece. 2, what is your why? So if you are, again, ECDev, you probably have a really strong why in terms of developing that tourism side. If you're a DMO, maybe it's around membership, maybe it's around funding. If you're either, maybe there's some destination development in there, but pick a why. I think that it allows you to help answer the question and actually give your locals a powerful call to action, right? They're always gonna say, well, why? So think about that up front. The next, like I said, political angle, you're building a list at the end of the day, right? I don't want you guys just sending out a bunch of stuff and just doing another marketing program that blasts stuff out into space and you don't really have an ability to track. Think about down the line. Actually, let's just think about this Love in the Loops to YK Strong example. They built a really strong list through their Love in the Loops engagement. So as soon as it was come time to pivot in a time of crisis, they had a list of hundreds that they could jump on to create awesome videos, to create great content, to support, to have ambassadors for that local piece. Think about your low-hanging fruit when you're building that list. Obviously, your chambers, your other community leaders that are in the same spot, some of those big tourism champions in the community. Don't start with, Norm down the street who always has an issue with whatever. He's going to be the slow turnaround supporter. But turn to those people that support you already. I think that's so important. The next piece of that political angle as you're building a strategy is think about timelines and think about process. A great example, I know in Calgary, we have a municipal election in 2021. So if I'm building out a value of tourism strategy for this city, I'm going to think about that. Do some of the elected officials need a strong tourism issue? Do I, as a DMO, need to be putting out a survey to understand where some of these candidates lean on tourism issues? Can I host a forum? Think about how you can project the volume of your value of tourism campaign during a time when lots of people are paying attention, but also during a time where you're putting leaders into a position that's important. Okay, you've done some dreaming in the first 3 steps. Now I want you to get realistic. So you've built the Cadillac, now pare it down. What's your budget? What's your resources? What's the realistic calendar? What I'll say too is value of tourism campaigns shouldn't be something that you just do once. I think a value of tourism campaign can be a really powerful tool in your back pocket annually. For some of you that really struggle in some of those tourism shoulder seasons, throw a value of tourism campaign in there. Your value of tourism campaign is really your support local. So if you have a really hard time driving traffic to your destination in the spring, maybe that is the perfect local, we'll borrow Love in the Loops or whatever you want to call it, YK Strong, my backyard, my local, maybe that's your time for a value of tourism campaign, and you activate that every year. You start it with a poll and some education, and you really hit the ground running there. So think of it as another tool in your destination marketing toolbox. Value of tourism for some of you is going to be an all year round initiative for those of you that have the resourcing and can dedicate time and money to that. And for some of you, this is going to be, almost a trickle throughout the year. So one quarter you're going to do a pool, the next quarter you're going to do some education. But think about this as a rinse and repeat. What's nice about something like the toolkit that I'm going to show you next is you get it done once and you can use it every year, right? You like I said, rinse it off, potentially update some branding. If you've redone polling, you'd potentially be updating some numbers. But it's something that can be in your back pocket that you take out and deliver year after year to locals. I want you to every year, speaking of your annual campaign, think about, am I prioritizing education or empowerment this year? I think in 2020, you're prioritizing empowerment. You obviously have to educate, but I would say local media has done a fantastic job of educating the fact that we are staying home. So being able to draw that parallel of staying home doesn't mean just staying in your physical backyard, but it means staying in your backyard of your hometown. In future years, maybe you've had a year that has really thrived from your international or your national visitors, and maybe some residents have kind of raised their nose at that a little bit. Maybe that's a year to prioritize education. So think about that. Your value of tourism, rinse and repeat it, but every year decide, am I focused on education or am I focused on empowerment? And then finally, the fun stuff, which is where we usually get caught up in the weeds. After you have done 1 through 5, you get to start thinking about the tactics. So I'm actually going to show you next our kit. And use Northern BC. Huge thank you to Amber because she's letting me divulge all this info and actually share it with you guys. So thank you, Amber. But I'm going to show it to you. So before I get there, I'm going to pause for a second. Are there any questions on value of tourism? Do you have any learnings that you guys can share with me? You're just so quiet today, maybe. I'll give you all a second. So like I said, this kit, and I'll show you the templates in a second. I want those questions, guys. Let me know where you're at. You can deploy this kit as quickly as over 3 weeks' time. You could deploy it for, we've kind of calculated on our end, you could make this last up to 6 months if you were looking for a longer value of tourism campaign piece. There's over 25 templates within the kit, and what's really nice is that we work with you at the onset to decide, hey, what templates are important or not, or hey, what about this thing? And maybe we've never even thought about it before, but it's a template that makes sense to you. It's not a cookie cutter. I think that's one thing that at CIPR we really don't ever want to be is giving everyone the cookie cutter approach, right? That same website template that you've seen on 4 or 5 different sites and you go, okay, they all use the same guy. We want it to stand out and be different. So I will say that the potential here and hopefully the deliverable is that you are going to get hundreds of new advocates. I'm going to caveat this too, because I know some of you are working on a real bootstrap budget right now. So 1, I would love to work with you guys on this kit, but 2, if the only thing you get out of this is some fantastic ideas to develop your own kits, I'm excited. So stay in touch with us at CIPR because we want to support you. So whether you're going to continue the conversation with us or if you're going to go off and do it on your own, let me know because I want to love it on social media. I want to share it. I want to be part of it and potentially I want to use it too. So keep us in mind. So I hope these are a bunch of great ideas for you. This first slide is really a nice overview. So I'm going to show you a few of these things and then I'm going to get into what the kit looks like and what was in each thing. So I'm going to blow by this unless you guys start asking me some questions. So get on there and type me a note. You'll see I'm going to peek at my other screen potentially as I'm doing this, but this first top one, and this is a sample, there's about 30 different templates within the Northern BC Tourism Kits. And so this first one here was actually a postcard. There's this great image on the front. I'm gonna just see if I can zoom in for you guys. There we go. From the region, I am tourism, hashtag BC Tourism Matters, the ability to, they were gonna put their mayor's name and address. So think about some of those mayors receiving all of these fabulous ones going, hey, I work as a fisherman, but it might not be obvious that I'm a face of tourism. So really trying to make that stand out for people. These next two were really awesome social media pieces, actually pulled together by Kaylin, who's on the line. An Instagram story, so a little bit of a challenge for people to say, I'm tourism. So again, this was part of the education campaign for Northern BC Tourism. And as a group, we decided what was really important is that the community wasn't necessarily understanding how many people actually were a part of the tourism industry. So this allowed someone like, hey, I'm a hairdresser and I'm actually a part of the tourism space because of this. So they were able to nominate someone new to do it next, but also tag their businesses and say where they were from. So a powerful initiative. This is a little social media badge that they could share as well. We had a bunch of interesting templates. I wanted to share this one with you guys here. Draw your tourism champion. So what was great about this particular one was there were a bunch of resident tools. So Northern BC Tourism said, hey, it's really important for us to talk to our residents. So this was something for parents to be able to print off and give to their kids. Then the local DMOs could have a bit of a contest, potentially tickets to a local destination or something tourism tied, to draw their tourism champion. So it could be, if you can read the fine print here, a chef, a farmer, a fisher, a shop owner, a photographer, tour guide, even your mom or dad. I would love to see, if any of you from Northern BC are online, I'd love to see the results of some of these. I'm sure they were super cute, but a really nice way to give back to moms who are looking for something to do with their kids at home, and two, to showcase a different face to residents of the tourism program. What was great too, slide decks. Those are always time consuming to put together. We have some amazing tourism content internally that we worked with Northern BC Tourism on, pulling from kind of the larger provincial body, but also from Destination Canada, and putting together an impact of tourism template that they could use to present to local government officials. Here, sample press release. I think those are always important. We underestimate, especially in our local hometowns, the magnitude of what a press release can actually do. If you're lucky, and if you have a relationship with your local media, but also if you know your local media is really strapped for content, sometimes they'll publish this word for word. So what a great opportunity to get your key messages out. What else do I have here? Oh, this great letter template. So what do I say to my elected official? Like, I know him personally and we just talk one-on-one all the time, or I've never talked to him before, I don't know what to say. Brad from our team was able to create these great letters that shared polling results, but also made some really great asks. I think as you're pulling together your value of tourism plan and you're thinking about the government relations aspect, which potentially you've never thought about as a DMO before, you have to have officers probably have to think about the GR components a little bit more. But, do you want them to speak about tourism during a council meeting or during a provincial maiden speech? Do you need them to stand up and be part of an event? Do you want them to host an event and maybe announce funding at one of your great destinations to improve brand awareness? All those things are possible. We can work with you to try to find some of those things. And this last piece here is, obviously we launched this during Tourism Week, but this was, how do you identify some of your champions in your community? So instructions. I think what's interesting is the leader of an organization is, you'll often get this container or toolbox, as we're calling it, of things, and then you gotta scratch your head and go, what do I do? Where do I start? The whole thing contains, start here, do these things, do this checklist. Kaylin can testify to this. I am a checklist person. I got notes all over my desk right now, but this allows us to be really measured and check the box for you guys. So that's a few of the pieces of the kit. So I'm going to go through these ones rather quickly. But so phase one, so again, I'm going to show you a kit in a second, but these were all the different things included in that phase one of the kit. how to poll, how to identify our tourism champions. What's the press release that you need to write this week? Probably an announcement around your polling or announcement around some of those conversations you're having. Your next phase. So if you're deploying this in 3 weeks, this is your week 2. If you're going over the stretch of a few months, which I'd recommend, give yourself a little bit more time. The next piece is your education, right? So within these kits, we developed, like I showed you, the government letters, the templates, your checklists, those postcards that you can distribute, which are so powerful. I actually used to work in an MLA's office, and I remember when we would get stacks of postcards from a certain group, and I would save them all. So I'd have my, my big stack, and I'd hand them to my minister when she would come into the office, and I'd say, this is a big deal. 142 constituents have sent this in. We need to think about this. We need to have a discussion. So those are powerful things. Social media badges, activity sheets. We've also given things like a media buy checklist. I know that local media component can sometimes be a challenge if you've never looked internally before. So we've supplied that in there too. Key messages, everyone loves a good key message, keeps your whole team on par, but anything else too that you see here are things that you think that would be important to your education campaign. So we can sit and talk about what that is. Maybe there's some special needs in your community that we'd want to address, and keep them in there. And then finally, the third phase is then that call to action, right? So things get a little bit more, oh boy, just flipping around on you guys. Things get a little bit more serious. Not my PowerPoint skills, but the kit skills. Things like an opinion editorial, decals to put up. So this is all about those visual cues, being out in the community. Again, social media, press releases, all of these different things. So again, if you are building these kits out on your own, I want you to take these slides, I want you to think about them and use them as ideas on how you can activate in your community. Or if you need our help, start thinking about what is most applicable. What I'm going to do quickly too is just show you guys, and right now you'll see my little Dropbox folders here. But this is what we ended up sharing with Northern BC Tourism. So, you have this update number 1, and it had all of these different templates for them to be able to use. You'll see this start here, so they knew where to start. Week 2, right? All of the different templates. Here's those resident templates, all neatly organized, those government templates. So again, we worked with them to determine what templates they needed. And then what was really nice, I'm going to show you guys just that initial how to use this kit. And it's branded towards them, right? So it's not just, again, a templated piece, but it looks and feels like your organization. You're able to distribute this, in the case of this regional DMO, to all of their community DMOs. But if you're working with a bunch of partners or members, you have these nice polished pieces that you get to use and distribute that are yours. This gave the, hey, what you can expect, what our end goals are, and why this is important. So again, think about this, and I'm actually excited to work with, there's a few of you on the line, that we could deploy this in a way that really makes sense for your community. Now, let's jump back in. So again, like I said, it's all about being fully customizable. What I'll say is just reach out to me. I think that whenever you're tackling a value of tourism campaign and trying to understand your community, a conversation with an outsider, I'll call myself an outsider, always helps. So I am putting myself out there. There's a link in this presentation to set a meeting with me, but you can also email me, Christina@CIPRcommunications.com. And let's talk about it. Let's see what's going on in your community. Like I said, we've done a number of these projects over the last few years, and I'd love to share my learnings with you guys. Let's hop on a Zoom call. Let's talk more about it. But again, never will you just, okay, here's the Dropbox. You'll always get that opportunity to work directly with us on this. So again, I'll leave you guys with, here's some of those kits. So you've seen me explain the long list. You've seen that Dropbox folder with all the different templates in it. And then these are some of those examples. So again, working directly with them, to take that resourcing concern off of their end. They knew what they needed to do. They knew they needed to demonstrate this value of tourism to the community, but didn't have the capacity to get all of these pieces done. So we were able to take that stress away from them, develop it, work alongside them, and help them deploy it in a way that made sense. And now they have this great program that their communities can deploy year after year, or if it didn't make sense for them to deploy it this summer, they can deploy it well into the future. So that is it, guys. I am going to share this last screen quickly, but again, my links are in here. I've included some other links too in terms of how we've worked with DMO and ECDEV offices in a variety of ways before. But really, I'm hoping what this presentation did for you guys today is just give you a chance to really understand why value of tourism is important in your community and where you can take it. So I think that, again, it's time to double down on our hometowns and those regions. It's time to be really thoughtful about how we're explaining the impacts of the visitor economy and how we as locals can help make that up for our amazing tourism-based businesses, but also how we can extend that and help businesses thrive well into the future by including the region there. So again, I hope that we've instilled some really cool ideas for your own value of tourism campaigns for you guys. But I also hope that if you want to have a conversation, and if any of this resonates with you, if you're going, ooh, this sounds great, but I don't have capacity, we want to help you build that capacity. Like I said, my whole team is so passionate about the tourism space. We all love the outdoors. We all love exploring. So we're looking forward to helping a lot of you guys. I'm just going to peek now that I'm not sharing. I can see some of these things. Oh, cool, Amy. I see in the chat here that you've put your Gulf Sturgeon campaign highlighting 12 golf courses. I got to get out there. I love golf. I put golf clubs in my boy's hand when we were out at Quayout Lodge, which is awesome. But yeah, sharing photos. This is so great, Amy. If you can, share with everyone a link to that. Maybe we can all follow you and support you. So share your link, Amy, in that chat with everybody, and we can share that along. But thank you, guys. Thanks, Pat. I'm glad that you appreciated the information. Like I said, Christina at CIPRcommunications.com. If you'd love to just chat with an outsider, let me know. I'm here. I'd love to chat with you guys more about value of tourism. And again, if this sounds like something that might interest you, shoot me a note or shoot anyone on our team a note, and we can start to work together. I think it's coming up on a really powerful time. If you can do some planning through August and kick off an interesting value of tourism campaign through fall. I know for many of you, fall can tend to be a bit of that shoulder season and that awkward part. This could potentially help that, right? Bridging that local and really making people excited about that piece. Yeah, well, shoot the questions. Perfect. Here's Amy's link to the Gulf Sturgeon stuff. I'm just going to put this to all panelists and attendees, Amy, so that they can all see it. There we go. Cool. Maybe I'll see a few of you out on the golf courses there. But thank you, guys. And again, Kaylin and I will stay on the line for a few minutes if you have a question that pops up. That's so great to see so many of you. Denise, I see you say hi again there. Hopefully we can catch up soon. I'd love to know what you've been working on out there. Hope you're doing well. Jillian, I will talk to you soon. I know there's an email in my inbox from you, so you will hear from me the soonest. But great to meet all of you. I'm so thankful for everyone who joined in today. Thanks to everyone on Facebook too. And yeah, we'll see you soon. I'll put this last slide up as you guys are leaving as well. And then Kaylin, I think from just a hosting perspective, we just gotta let the loop catch up on Facebook.
Yes, yeah, but anyway, it's funny to watch.
leave this up for the Facebook folks. But yeah. Kaylin, what did you take away from today since I couldn't pick on anybody else?
Well, I haven't actually jumped in to see all of the final product of all of the templates there. So seeing it all kind of come together, I really can see how there's a lot of value in it.
Cool.
And like the from start to finish, you'd be able to do an entire campaign, which I think is really, really great.
Nice. All right, well, thank you guys. We'll see you next time. Watch your email. We're going to do another awesome webinar in a few weeks' time. I actually think there's going to be a pretty special guest joining us. So if you're a tourism ECDev, DMO, tourism operator, join us in a couple weeks' time.
Awesome.
Bye, everyone.